Now there's a great way for younger kids to get in on the Ranger Rick fun with the all-new Ranger Rick Jr. magazine, created especially for kids ages 4 to 7. Debuting in Ranger Rick Jr. is an exciting new character, the curious Ricky, who acts as a trusted guide and pal, pointing out interesting animal facts and more as children explore the magazine. True to everything parents love about Ranger Rick and the National Wildlife Federation, this magazine introduces children to the wonder of the wildlife world, with features like Ever Wonder and Green Time, a page in every issue that inspires kids to head outside. Click the link below to find out how you can get your copy today.
Yeah, I knew something was gonna go wrong today. Hold up. What the heck? Why is it working here and it's not working here? Oh no. Alright, hold on 1 second. Remove. Hey, what's up? New room, what's up? Copy. Full cam podcast, paste. Yo! Hey! Alright. Crowway with the $10. My alerts are broken. What a terrible day for Lock to not be available. Okay, so I'm a little confused here, because I believe there was a $25 donation in the intro, and there was just a $10 donation from Crowway. So for now, or until this is fixed, you're quiet. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Is this better? All right. For now, I'm going to... Too loud. For now, I'm just going to read the donations out on my Stream Elements stash until my alerts get fixed. I'm hoping that can happen without Lock being available today. We will see what happens. But we got $24.50 from Conch and $10 from Crowway. Thank you guys so much. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the new room. This is my new streaming room, folks. I got set up yesterday. I have a new camera. I have a new desk. We got a couple more donations that came in. Koopa Steve with $77 and 77 cents. James Harden with $5. I don't know what's going on here, folks. Chubby Devil with $10. Thank you. I know the room looks super empty. There's nothing in it yet. I just moved in here. I also know that it's just a lot of white, but I'll put more stuff in it. Oh my gosh, this is just broken. We got another $11 donation. Zooey with $11.11. Warber with $20. Again, Chubby with $10. James Harden with $5. Thank you. Okay, there's an alert. So my donations are just not working. Dang. Mitcho with $25 and Tipsy Nomad with $50. Okay, let me tell you guys what we're fundraising for and who we're talking to today. Today we're talking to Dr. Soloman David. He's an aquatic ecologist and assistant professor. And he studies gars. So someone says, what is gar? Yeah, we're going to learn about that today. I'm super excited. So there are 7 species of gar. We're going to talk about their conservation. We're going to talk about why they're so cool. This guy is obsessed with gar. Oh, okay, there's a $10 in here. And my alerts are showing up in my feed. Okay. Oh. Okay, here we go. All right, $105.61. $203.38. All right, it's a little backed up. We're moving. Okay, so today we're talking about gars, okay? We're even gonna meet some today. Zooey, thank you. All right, all the donations are coming in. I've already thanked them. And at the same time, we are raising money for Ranger Rick magazine. I know those 2 intro videos there was a stark difference between the two. So Ranger Rick magazine is really cool and really special to Soloman because it's what inspired him to be interested in GARs in the first place. The National Wildlife Federation publishes 3 magazines for kids, and it inspires kids to love wildlife and to be interested in different species. So that's who we're raising money for today, which is really, really important. We all know how important it is to get the next generation into conservation and into loving wildlife. So please turn the mic a bit or your volume up. Is the audio okay? We are going to run into a couple hiccups today, guys. This is my first time in this room, so bear with me. Is it better? Still low. I don't think Locke told me not to touch these. What about now? The same? The same? Thank you for pointing that out. Somebody pointed out the title. Just have to go to max volume. This is maxed out. Okay, so we'll adjust that later. But a couple different things today. A couple things that we have that's new today. I'm very excited to be in this house. We got a lot of new content coming from out of this room. I know that the lighting is terrible. I need to work on that. I apologize. Mug with the $10, Archer with 5, thank you, and Face with $5 as well. Appreciate that. There's a quiz. Okay, so if you haven't been here, which most of you have been, there is a quiz at the end of the podcast. It's 5 questions, 20 seconds per question, and the quiz is based on the conversation that I have with Soloman. So if you pay attention and you're interested in what's going on in the podcast, it's not a hard quiz, and if you win, you get a gifted sub to my channel or a gifted sub to another channel of your choice, or you can ask me to donate an additional $5 to Ranger Rick today. Whoops. Sorry, I got distracted there. Unrim, thank you for the $5 donation. We're at $278.38. That's nuts. If you have a question that you would like to ask Soloman, you can do #ask and it'll send it to a bot. I can incorporate those questions into the podcast today. I can ask him those questions. He sent us a lot of really cool pictures, so I can share those and videos that he sent as well with you guys. And another new thing that we're doing today that's a little bit different is we're going to do a little bit of a poll at the beginning of the podcast and at the end of the podcast to gauge how effective the podcast is in inspiring people to care about conservation and inspiring people to care about the species that we're talking about. So, I think Space is setting up the poll, and we're going to take the results from what you guys think about GAR at the beginning, and then we're going to take the results at the end. He already started the poll. Okay, great. So, a lot of you probably don't even know what GARs are, so that's great. And if you don't, just be super, super honest about it. If you don't care about their conservation right now because you don't know what they are, that's fine, right? Just answer however you feel right now, and then you'll answer at the end of the podcast as well. Okay, am I missing anything? I feel very all over the place because of the new setup. I have a new headset too. Shroud headset. Peepa Pog. Thank you for the subs. This is really evolving. GARs are sick. Hooray! Oh, here's the poll. Okay. Great. So we're at 57% neutral. So that's a 3. 22%, 1, don't care. And then 6%, 5, extremely important. And the question is, how much do you care about the conservation of GAR? So we'll let this poll run a little bit. Peepo Pog said. Okay. Am I missing anything? I know I already asked that, but I feel like I always say things that I have not yet said. No. All right, we're good. Again, if you have a question throughout the podcast, do #ask followed by your question. Nothing fancy, just #ask space, like not space, but like a space. And then whatever question you have, you can type questions in chat. It's just likely that I won't see them. If you'd like to donate today to Ranger Rick, you can do Command Org, and it'll take you to their website if you want more information. There's a panel where you can donate. If you want to go and follow Soloman on Twitter, you can do Command Guest, and it'll take you to his account. He does really, really great science communication via Twitter, like a lot of our guests do. Jude with the $20. Thank you so much. Okay, great. I will be back in a couple minutes with Soloman. Thank you, chat. Thank you for the sub. Hello.
Hello.
All
Thanks for the intro.
Oh, of course. It was such a mess. I'm sorry that you watched that.
I feel like it's about what you'd expect, how things go and stuff. So you did a great job with
Right. Yeah. This is my first time in this this new room, and I'm having tech issues even now. So we have raised $313 already.
That's
but
great.
while I'm sorting out this tech stuff, if you want to tell us where those donations are going and why you picked Ranger Rick, and then do like a short introduction of yourself, that would be awesome.
Okay, sounds good. Can they hear me now or see me? Or what's...
They can hear you.
All right. Yes, so the donations are going to Ranger Rick magazine, which is part of the National Wildlife Federation. And let me make sure these sounds that are coming up here. They do a nature magazine or a series of nature magazines for kids. I think the overall take-home message is that they help to inspire the next generation of conservationists, of naturalists, just the next generation in general, interested in nature, getting into the outdoors, and being interested in conservation and wildlife. So it's important to me. I like to think that it's important to all of us when we want to think about caring for the planet and taking care of the biosphere that we're all part of. So yeah, that's why I chose this organization. I think I'll get into a little bit more about why it's important directly to me a little bit later, but that's the overall message for Ranger Rick and choosing them.
Very cool. I played that little intro video and said a little bit about him, but that's a great magazine, and I love you have a pinned tweet about your article in the magazine. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but it's really, really cool. This is what I'm talking about. Okay, and then if you want to tell us about yourself and what you do and what's behind you as well, that would be awesome.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm Soloman David. I'm an assistant professor of biological sciences at Nicholls State University in Thibodaux, Louisiana. If you don't know where that is, it is about an hour southwest of New Orleans. I'm also an aquatic ecologist. That just means I study organisms that live in aquatic environments and how they interact with other organisms and with their environments. More specifically, I study freshwater fish biodiversity and conservation, and I try to use science communication through traditional methods like scientific journals and writing articles, as well as science communication through social media such as Twitter and doing podcasts like this. So that's essentially what I do. The focus species that I work with, or the focus group that I work with, is a group of fish called gars. They're sort of an ancient lineage of fish. They kind of are sometimes considered primitive fish or ancient fishes or sometimes living fossil fishes, because the gars that we see alive today look a lot like their ancestors that we see in the fossil record. And their lineage has been around for over 157 million years. So that's the late Jurassic period. They're older than the Tyrannosaurus rex and are, some of our favorite Cretaceous period dinosaurs. So they're these, to me, these really cool looking animals that look like aquatic dinosaurs. They have these elongate bodies. They look like essentially an alligator with fins instead of legs. That's how I would give my general description of them.
They do look like that. That's a good way to describe them. We did a poll, like I mentioned to you at the in the test call, of how much do you care about the conservation of gar on a scale of 1 to 10, just to let you know. And the result of the poll was 58% neutral, and then the next one was that they don't care, that they don't know what they are. So hopefully we can change some minds and change some opinions about that throughout the podcast. Riz tipped $5, health points with $15, Chateau with 20, Emla with 10. Thank you so much. We're at $363.38. Okay, and what is it that you have behind you?
Yeah, so behind me, I'll kind of move to the side here, is an aquarium that actually has all 7 species of gars in the tank. So
wow.
There's 7 species that are alive today. They're found everywhere from southern Canada down to Costa Rica. Different species are found in different locations. But yeah, these are some that are from my research. Some of them are pets. They all kind of live at home right now. As they require larger spaces, which gars inevitably do, they get scaled up into larger enclosures. But right now, there's a spotted gar right here. Above that is a Florida gar, and there's a juvenile alligator gar right behind that there. So they'll probably be making some cameos as they kind of shift over to the screen or to that side of the tank over the course of the podcast.
That's awesome. Because the spotted gar we can see so well, and it's so cool looking. I figure we should just start going through some of the photos, and I see a couple spotted gar photos.
Cool.
Here's one. It says number 3, so spotted gar, Louisiana Bayou.
Yeah. I think that shows effectively, where they live, at least typically down here.
How cool is this? Okay, and then there's spotted gar jaws. So these are predatory fish.
Yes, and so I guess I'll go by which images that you're showing there. Yeah, okay, I can see it now on the stream. So yeah, gars tend to live in slower moving waters. They live in bayous and backwaters, sort of sluggish type, again, slower moving water. But they can live in larger river systems and to an extent faster moving water. But they're not typically found in the same type of water as salmon might be, which like faster moving water. They're what we call ambush predators. So as Maya said, they are predatory fish. They usually will sort of sit and wait for prey to come along. And when they come along within range of their jaws, they do a quick side swiping of the jaws and they grab whatever prey item that might be. It's usually going to be fish. They adjust the fish in their jaws to swallow it head first. And then they go about their business, either to their next meal or to, maybe rest for a little bit. So they make use of those teeth pretty effectively. And they're not like piranha teeth, which have a sort of cutting edge to them where they can tear off chunks of whatever their prey type might be. They're made for grasping and holding, kind of like the teeth in a snake. Mm-hmm. So it's mainly made there in the jaws to sort of keep the prey from getting away, and they quickly adjust the prey in order to swallow it head first. So a gar isn't going to be able to swallow anything, wider than its jaws, and even a gar about this big, I'm kind of showing maybe about a foot long, maybe more, probably has jaws only about that wide. So they're not going to, come after people or anything like that.
Yeah. Is this a spotted gar that's in I think it's your profile picture in a lot of places, but it's you holding one?
Yeah, that's actually a juvenile alligator gar. Oh. So they look pretty similar. If you were to look at them by the snout, not so much head on, the alligator gar has the shortest and broadest snout out of all the gars. One of the other gar species at the other extreme is the long-nosed gar, which has kind of a redundant name. You've got this really long and skinnier snout, and then you've got the short-nosed gar. There's the Florida gar, the Cuban gar, tropical gar. I think I named everybody in there. So, but they all have these long snouts, kind of like if you think about crocodiles or alligators, it gives them extended range when they're kind of going after different prey types.
Got it. So tell me how you got so into gar. Because you love them. I love following your Twitter account because you're so enthusiastic about them, and there's gar puns everywhere. He's like the gar guy. Can you tell me about how you got into it?
Sure. As a kid, I was always interested in what I like to call creatures. So bugs, snakes, maybe the animals that people aren't typically as crazy about. And so I was into wildlife, and again, these more unusual creatures, usually the ones that have a little bit that garner a little bit less attention. And of course, I was interested in dinosaurs. And so when I moved from North Dakota to Ohio, some neighborhood kids, had similar interests. They saw I was interested in these creatures. They gave me some old issues of Ranger Rick magazine. And I was flipping through them one day, and I flipped to the middle of one of the old issues, and something caught my eye. It was actually this illustration of these two little turtles. I was into turtles a lot at the time, and but I kind of zoomed out my perspective, and the feature of that article wasn't these two softshell turtles. It was actually this giant fish that spanned both pages, and it looked like an alligator with fins instead of legs. And this was an alligator gar, and Ranger Rick kind of introduced me to alligator gars. I thought, wow, this fish is really cool. It looks like an aquatic dinosaur. It had this sort of primitive look to it. And I read everything I could about them. And that's what kind of introduced me to these fish. And, I was interested in biology throughout junior high and high school. I kind of got away from it for the first part of undergrad, but eventually came back to ichthyology in my undergraduate studies, and then went to grad school at the University of Michigan and studied aquatic ecology, and was able to focus on gars for my research, for my master's and for my dissertation.
That's awesome. I had the original picture pulled up when you were describing it, and then I want to show the new one as well, because you had a feature in Ranger Rick, so it's super just full circle. So cool.
Sure. Yeah. With the, I guess with that, just to complete that story and everything, is I eventually lost that article. Growing up, you're a kid, your interests, shift all the time. And when I started studying gars, or at least was a little bit more interested in them when I was in grad school, I remembered, I was like, there was this Ranger Rick article. I remember it. It had this alligator gar on it. I always thought it was really cool. And I thought, since I'm interested in these fish now, I'm studying them, I got to find it. And so I'd go home over like Christmas break and Thanksgiving break, and I'd go through the old boxes, and I'd ask my parents, like, where are those Ranger Rick magazines? Where are they at? And I was never able to find it. And it was for maybe 20 years I was looking for this issue. I'd go on eBay to try to search for it. I'd do some interviews, and then I'd mention it in there. The Chicago Sun-Times even put it in an interview that I gave, saying, look, Solomon David really loves gars. He's looking for this old article from Ranger Rick. I tried everything that I possibly could. And it turned out, when I was doing a postdoc at Shedd Aquarium in Chicago, I was working on a blog post about gars, and I was checking Twitter, and this is where social media comes back into it. I checked Twitter, and it turned out that it was National Raccoon Day. So National Wildlife Federation popped up on my feed, and I thought, oh wow, I remember National Wildlife Federation. That's Ranger Rick. That's why the raccoon was there. That's the mascot for Ranger Rick. And so I decided to tweet at them. After all these years, I never really thought to approach them on social media, but we'd sent emails. Friends had tried to get in touch with them, and we weren't successful. And I said, Ranger Rick is what got me interested in gars. I've still been looking for this issue that I saw as a kid. And so I went to bed that day, shut everything down. The next day they tweeted back to me, is this the issue? Is this the illustration you've been looking for, for all this time? And I just couldn't believe it. It just blew my mind. And so,
cool.
It kind of came full circle there. They gave me an issue of it. And as you referred to, just this past year, I was able to write an article for Ranger Rick about gars, and kind of hopefully get this next generation interested in these really cool fish.
That's so neat. What a great organization. So Gugler tipped $5, Jude with $10, Riz with $5. So we're at $378.38 raised for Ranger Rick and National Wildlife Federation. Okay, very cool. So we've had a ton of questions that have come in, and we'll probably go back to some of these photos as they come up, but I want to start answering some of the questions because there are a lot of good ones. A lot of them are about you mentioning that they were primitive fish. So Bolts Live asked, are they related to dinosaurs?
Well, that's a great question. They've been around as long as some dinosaurs, but they're not necessarily related. If you think about things, when we think about the evolutionary tree and the tree of life, how things are all related, all animals are connected and have a distant sort of relative. They have a common ancestor, but they're not too closely related to dinosaurs. That's a broader evolutionary question. Dinosaurs, modern day birds are a branch of one branch of the dinosaur sort of family tree, but all vertebrates kind of have a common ancestor. So I would say not closely related. Technically, you could say they're related because all vertebrates and all living organisms are related, but they're not too closely related.
Yeah.
They do have this sort of prehistoric appearance to them, and they haven't changed much since dinosaur times, which is one of the things I think makes them cool. They found a plan and they've kind of stuck with it, and it's worked for them for over 150 million years.
Nice. Void just tipped $121. Thank you, Void. Raptor tipped $5. SMK tipped $30. Thank you. So a similar question. Then Oxlade asked, are alligator gars related to alligators?
Another great question. They aren't closely related. Again, I'd use the same answer I did for the dinosaurs and that sort of a relationship there. So they're not closely related to alligators really in any way in terms of their evolutionary history, except for if we look at them with something called convergent evolution. This basically means that you've got different organisms, could be different animals, that are doing some similar things, and they come up with the same sort of idea, same sort of body plan. Adaptations have led to this sort of body plan independently. So an alligator has a long snout, and they're able to eat different prey types with that long snout. Gars, very similarly, it gives them an extended range, and therefore they can, feed with this sort of extended range underwater. Now, alligators have much stronger jaws. They've got a lot of crushing power, whereas alligator gars, it's more for grasping and holding. They're not big biters. They're not going to crush their prey or anything like that.
Got it.
But if you were to look at a crocodile or a crocodilian called a gharial, they have these really long snouts, and they're specialized in eating fish. And you see that with long-nosed gars, which are specialized in eating fish. So you can kind of think of it as animals that have kind of come up with the same body plan idea, just they came up with the idea independently via evolution and adaptation.
Got it. Very cool. I just pulled up a picture of a gharial. That makes sense. All right. And then speaking of that long snout, Moist Factor asked, how big do gars get? And there are lots of similar questions about how big they can be.
So the alligator gar is the largest of the gar species. They can be as small as the short-nosed gar, which maxes out at maybe right around 3 feet long. So that's going to be relatively small. But the alligator gar can grow over 8 feet long. There's anecdotal evidence that they got to be close to 10 feet long. We haven't seen alligator gars that big in a long, long time, but we do occasionally see ones that are, over 8 feet long, and they can weigh over 300 pounds. So they are, sort
300 pounds.
Big, they're some of the big game animals of North America. So they're gigantic.
That is incredible.
It might be a good time, Maya. I was going to show a visual aid of that just to give you an idea here.
Okay, great.
Here we go. This is the skull of an alligator gar, and this thing is about 2 feet long. Just the skull alone.
Oh my gosh, that's
and you
amazing.
Kind of see the teeth that they got in there.
Yeah, those teeth are so interesting. I mean, how many rows of teeth?
The alligator gars and members of the same genus have two prominent rows in the top. In the upper jaw, and they've got one prominent row in the lower jaw. But if you look, they've got a lot of tiny teeth there too. And I mean, it's a pretty solid skull. I mean, it's rock solid there. But so this skull is over 2 feet long. The fish itself was just under 8 feet long, and it was estimated to be about 48 years old. And I believe it weighed, I'm trying to think, it was over 200 pounds for the weight of that fish. I'd have to look back up for that. But we use that as sort of our demonstration classes and other things. So the short answer is they can get pretty big.
Yeah, that's a fantastic teaching tool. That was so cool. You said 48 years old. What is their lifespan typically? There are a couple questions about that as well.
Yeah, we believe that alligator gars can live for over 100 years. So we're still finding out more refined ways of estimating their age. But with a lot of fish, the way that we determine their age is we look at something called an otolith, which is an ear stone. And if you take those out, you can sort of sand them down, and they actually have rings, like rings on a tree, and we can estimate their age from that. So even some of the small gars can live for 30 years, which is, a long time for a fish, but alligator gars, we're pretty confident can live for over 100 years. So they can be pretty old fish.
That's so cool. I think now's a good time. You have this alligator gar fishing video.
Okay.
And I'm going to pull that up so they can see it. Is this one that you want the audio on, or do you want to talk while it's playing?
You can put the audio on. I would start with the drone one, because that's how we sort of cast out for it.
Oh, cool. Look at this. Look at this tech stuff, chat. Okay, so we're looking at this big fish head.
Let's see. So yeah, that might be the one where we catch it. I would go with the one that says drone casting.
Yeah, we're looking at a drone right now. So
okay, there you go. There you go.
Oh my gosh, that's serious. I've never seen fishing like that. Wow.
And so what we did was we used the drone to cast out the line, and this is carp. So we're using carp, it's an invasive species, as bait. And so the drone flies the line, or flies the bait and the line about 300 feet away, and then we just give it a little tug, and then we can set the hook or set the bait out there. And we did that, so we were able to cast multiple lines around the boat without spooking any of the fish or anything like that. And then the drone's programmed to come back. So we're using sort of this high-tech, high technology to go after these sort of ancient, quote-unquote, primitive fishes. It's kind of interesting contrast there.
Yeah, drone fishing. Who knew?
And then if you show the next clip, that's the short one, you can see what one of the fish was that we caught. At least it shows it on the hook there, yeah.
All right. That's so cool. There have also been lots of questions about fishing and are gars being fished, and are they at risk because of fishing?
That's a great question. So the answer is yes and no. They aren't as popular sport fish or traditional game fish as we might think of with largemouth bass or salmon or trout. In fact, gars have been historically hated, especially in the United States, because we think that they are bad for game fish. They're bad for the fish that people want to catch. And the truth is that's not the truth. It's not the case. Alligator gars are important predators, important components of native ecosystems. They actually work to maintain balance in a given ecosystem, whether that's a river, a pond, or a lake. So think of them as wolves in in Yellowstone. They help maintain balance in prey populations. And so they can keep populations from stunting, that sort of stuff. So they unfortunately are oftentimes fished, but they're bow fished, and they're just kind of cast off to the side. So they're usually shot and thrown up on the banks. If you were to Google images of bow fishing and gar, they're not used the same way we would if you go fishing and eat what you catch. That's a great way of doing it with its hunting and fishing. But bow fishing oftentimes is very wasteful, and so you end up with gar populations, or at least groups of gars, going into dumpsters, being strewn about the bank. But there are conservation efforts now to change that to more have more conservation-oriented fishing, especially catch and release. What we were doing there in the videos was catch and release, and that's how we can study the gar populations. It also provides funding towards fisheries and fishery management. Fishing licenses actually provide a lot of funding to natural resource management, so it's important to support that, but not necessarily killing the animal, especially if you're not going to be eating it. So it's a complex relationship with the conservation and really any sort of natural resource.
Okay, and Dr. Ishmael asked, are there any protection or conservation programs in place for gar?
Yes, in some places. Texas is doing a great job with very progressive regulations on alligator gar. It's also one of the most healthy populations of alligator gars are found in Texas, also here in Louisiana. In Louisiana, we don't have as many regulations on alligator gar populations. In other places where they used to be found, Oklahoma, Arkansas, even up into Illinois, they do have some more protections because those populations have been decimated to an extent via eradication efforts, but really it's habitat loss that is one of the biggest problems for gars anywhere. Draining the wetlands cutting off rivers from the floodplain that they need to spawn at. Whenever you cut off an animal from its spawning grounds or its reproductive grounds, you're going to, create problems for those populations. So
Right.
there are regulations. They are considered endangered or threatened, certain gar species in particular states. But it's been pretty piecemeal and it can be a lot better. And that's one of the things that we hope to do with science communication opportunities like this, is showing that these animals are valuable components of native ecosystems and they do need more conservation protection.
Right. So a segue. So a couple other people have asked about what role do gar play in their ecosystem? So you mentioned prey, because they're predators, controlling prey populations. Is there anything else that you could tell us about that they do for their ecosystems?
Sure, that's one of the main things, right? Like if you have an overabundance of prey, you might end up with stunting of prey fish populations, stunting of other populations. You could end up with disease. And so as apex predators in many of their particular ecosystems, that's one of their key roles. Now, as scientists, we're starting to use GARs as indicators of restoration success as well.
Okay.
What we call habitat connectivity. Some of the work that I'm doing at Nicholls State University with my lab, which is appropriately called GAR Lab, we are looking at restoration activities to connect river systems with the floodplains. And we're using GARs as sort of an indicator species because GARs need the floodplain in order to reproduce. They go up from the river waters and they go out into the floodplain. They spawn in shallow areas. If we see GARs reproducing there, if we see healthy populations of GARs, it usually means that the connectivity is pretty good. And we have connections between those aquatic systems. It's good for other fish species. It's good for water birds. It's good for other animals. And so we can use them as indicators of overall ecosystem health.
Very cool. You were mentioning reproduction, and I really need an excuse or a good segue to show these baby gar photos.
Sure.
that you put in here. So I have Lab 2 baby gar. It says 1 day old. Very cool. It's going to take you a while to be able to see that. Wallflower tip $5, and oar tip 40, and choke with 5. Thank you so much. We're at $585.73. And the second baby gar photo we have at 65 days old. I think this is you holding it.
Yeah, that's me holding it. One of my graduate students, she's now graduated, Sarah Fontana, took that picture. But we raise GARs in the lab for different purposes. We raise them for different experiments and also to learn more about their ecology. But also one of the new things is applications of GARs for biomedical research and evolutionary developmental research. So we can look at their genome, and that can actually help us better understand the human genome and other vertebrate genomes. So some new research that's been done from a colleague of mine and friend at Michigan State, Dr. Ingo Brosch. They sequenced the spotted gar genome. And if you'll remember, I mentioned how GARs are the sort of more primitive, if you will, lineage of fish. Because they're so different than, let's say, more modern fish, more, I guess, the teleosts are considered to be the modern fish, these minnows that we oftentimes use in laboratory experiments. There's a little minnow called a zebrafish that we use in laboratory experiments, kind of like we use lab rats and use fruit flies to learn about, biomedical type studies. We found that the GAR genome is actually pretty similarly organized to the human genome, and therefore we can use them as sort of a go-between with this minnow that we use for a lot of our biomedical research, and therefore it can sort of help connect the dots better. So in short, this GAR genetics or GAR genomics can help us understand better more about the human genome and about these other model organism genomes. So they're not just good for these ecosystems, but they can actually help us understand more about ourselves. So it's kind of a really cool aspect of these fish, on top of them being apex predators, them being good for the environment, and them being a great sport fish.
That's so cool. Okay, I'm trying to find a good segue question, but there aren't any related to that. That just doesn't surprise me because I don't think any of us saw that coming. Let me change the subject a little bit to... so I've read about this a little bit, but I also know very little. Anish asked, why are gar eggs poisonous?
Nice. That's kind of what I was going to suggest we go to next anyway.
Great.
So that's a great question. The short answer is we don't really know, but we've got some ideas. But it's a great point to bring up. So gar eggs are poisonous, with some, caveats to that. So gar eggs are poisonous to mammals. They're poisonous to birds. They're poisonous to a lot of different invertebrates, especially arthropods like crayfish, crabs, crickets, that sort of stuff. But they're not poisonous to other fish, which is kind of interesting. If you're gonna,
Oh, chat, can you still hear me? Okay, you guys can still hear me, correct? All right, we lost them. Hold on. Hi, sorry we lost you.
no problem. Am I here now?
Yes, I think so. All right, we're good.
right.
Last thing we heard was that they're not poisonous to other fish.
Got it. Yeah. So they're not poisonous to other fish, which is kind of unusual, right? You'd think that you live in the water, you're a fish, you want eggs that are toxic to other fish, but that's
Right.
not the case.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons we think that this might have evolved, this sort of protection, is that gars spawn, like I mentioned, in shallow water. It's usually going to be in warmer water, where you don't find a lot of other fish species. And there's a reason for that, which will lead to probably another question. But what you do find in this warmer, shallow water is water birds, maybe crayfish and crabs, things that might actually prey on gar eggs. So we believe that maybe this egg toxicity, this poisonous eggs thing, has evolved to protect gars from the predators that are actually in the area at the time.
Okay.
Can you also hear me?
Yes.
So with that, why do they live, why might other fish not be able to make it into the shallow, warmer water? Shallow water holds less oxygen, but that's where another gar adaptation comes in. Gars can actually breathe air. So yes, there are fish that can breathe air, and gars are one of those groups. So they go up to the surface and they take a gulp of air and they fill this structure called a gas bladder. It works kind of like a lung or a scuba tank.
Mm-hmm. Huh. That's so cool. Okay. Somebody asked, Spence asked, do gars have natural predators? So we talked about the predators for those eggs, but the fish themselves?
Yeah, it depends on the species. So once a gar gets to a decent size, like even a spotted gar can grow to over 3 feet long. Once they're that size, there's very few natural predators that they would have. Alligators would probably be one of the few natural predators that could eat a larger gar. But if you're a 8 or 9 foot alligator gar, the only predator you really have to worry about is humans. But other than that, they don't have too much to worry about. Smaller gars, maybe in the 1 foot to 2 foot size category. Birds will take them down. Great blue herons, cormorants, but that's about it.
I don't think it was you who tweeted. Somebody tweeted this photo series. I think it was Jason Ward. He tweeted this photo series of a great blue heron eating this baby crocodile. I don't know. Did you see those photos?
Oh yeah.
Oh my
Great blue
gosh.
herons they're merciless. They will eat anything that can fit down the gullet.
That was like the craziest thing I've ever seen. Okay. JJ tipped $20. Said air breathing fish. Woo. Somebody then, because of that, asked. Anish asked, "Can gars travel on land then?"
No, that's a great question because some fish can, right? There's a fish called the snakehead that can do that. There's a fish called the lungfish that can survive on land for a little bit, but they don't necessarily travel over land. Gars don't travel over land. They can survive in really shallow water, even if it's just mud with sort of a thin film of water on it. But really, they need to be in the water. Now, if a gar were to be, on land, either it jumped out of a tank or it got dumped somewhere, they can survive for a pretty long time on land, but they're not going to use land to travel over or anything like that.
Okay. Thank you for the question. Great question. A lot of really great questions. Thank you guys. Again, if you have any, you can do #ask followed by your question. I will see them that way. I want to show this last video that's called Garvana, because the footage is so cool and it goes underwater. Do you want to explain to us where this comes from? Or...
Yeah, so for my 40th birthday, my wife, Casey David, planned a trip for us to go to Florida, and Florida has a bunch of these springs, and these springs have super clear water. I've always wanted to go there, and gars will actually congregate in some of these areas. And so this video is actually from my actual birthday, my 40th birthday, and we're kayaking, and below the surface, just tons of gars just hanging out. These are Florida gars and longnose gars. The manatees had moved out, but the manatees also use these springs. But you can just see them kind of hanging out there. And I was really excited. If you end up posting it where they can catch the audio, I was kind of losing it with my excitement.
We can hear a little bit. This is like your heaven. How cool is that?
Yeah.
People are, by the way, people are very surprised that you said 40th because they think you look much younger.
I appreciate it.
Wow, how cool is that? That water is insanely clear. That's so
Oh
cool.
yeah, and it's at a state park. That's at Blue Springs State Park in Florida, but they've got a lot of great state parks. So with the sort of spirit of Ranger Rick, I'd encourage people to get out to those places when travel is safe, of course, and experience those things. You don't have to swim with the gars. I did that on my birthday. I did actually hop out and swim with some big long-nosed gars that day. But there's also manatees there and a lot of other cool animals, and you can go kayaking and canoeing. But it's a really cool system out there.
That's so cool. Vonker tipped $94.27, so that got us to $700 flat so far, which is awesome. That's a good question. So Connor asked, how often do they reproduce?
It depends. So most gars will reproduce every year, but it's just one time a year. Alligator gars in some populations and in some habitats, if they don't have the right flood waters, like if the water levels don't get high enough, they won't spawn that particular year. But in other systems, they will spawn pretty much every year. So it depends on the species. It depends on the condition. Another cool thing, since I mentioned alligator gars and spawning, the alligator gar populations that live closer to the coast, like the Gulf Coast, they will spawn usually on an annual basis. But it brings up another point. Alligator gars and a lot of other gar species can live in freshwater and in saltwater. So they're kind of this super durable fish that can, tolerate full saltwater.
And can breathe air and live in water. No wonder they've been around so long. How cool. Okay, let's see. People have asked. Okay, so another good question. I lost it. Oh, here. The triple asked, has studying gars changed the way you think about eating fish? And maybe can you give us any advice on sustainable consumption? Because
sure. No, I think when you study biology, and of course if you study fish or any particular organism, you might think more about consumption of that organism if it's something that people consume. But I've had gar before, alligator gar, spotted gar, a couple different species, and it actually tastes really good. So I think about that when we think about hunting for gar, bow fishing. If you eat what you take, then at least you're making use of that resource. It takes a little bit more to process gar because they've got this armored exterior. They've got these ganoid scales, and their scales are made up of a component very similar to enamel. You think about enamel, that's the hardest substance that our bodies produce. And their scales are basically made of this similar type substance. So they're covered in these armored scales. So if you fish for gar, you kind of need tin snips or some crazy tools to get through them, as opposed to other fish where you can maybe use a fillet knife and that sort of thing. But to get back to that question, gars are important food fish in the southern United States and also parts of Mexico and Central America. In those places, it's as culturally important as salmon is in the Pacific Northwest. So it's a big food fish. And we're trying to work on ways to sustainably harvest gars. So there are regulations in some places. In other places, they're working on research to rear gars in captivity and release them into the wild to sort of boost the native populations that may have been depleted. So I think eating fish is possible. I think you have to look into that particular species and look at how it's caught to determine if it's sustainable. And luckily, Monterey Bay Aquarium has Seafood Watch. There's a lot of great resources you can look at for, what is a particularly sustainable fish.
Yeah, absolutely. Void, thank you for the $54 donation. Okay, hard question. Somebody asked, what is your favorite species of gar?
Oh man, I feel like this always comes up and I'm never really prepared for it. That is so tough. I want to say, I could say something nice about all of them and there's only 7, but I think the alligator gar is probably tied with the spotted gar as my favorite. I've worked the most on spotted gars in places from Michigan all the way down to Louisiana, so literally across the country. But that Ranger Rick article was an alligator gar, and that's what kind of caught my attention.
Yeah.
So it maybe a tie between those two, but I'm sure I could justify all of them.
All right, that's fair. Okay, let's see. We have time for a couple more questions. Let me find some good ones. There have been so many. I'm sorry that I can't get to all of these guys, but thank you. Zoro asked, how fast can they swim?
They can swim pretty fast, which brings me to the point. I'm not sure what your time is, Maya, but when they're eating, they can move pretty quick.
Yeah,
so
we'll do that after. We'll do one more question and then go
all right.
to that.
When they're pursuing prey, which they don't just lie in wait for prey to ambush them, they will chase after prey, and they can swim pretty fast, but just in bursts of speed, like many fish. They can take off pretty fast. They can outswim a person, but usually they prefer being pretty chill and moving pretty slow. As you can see with some of them, like they almost sit motionless.
All right. And then a last question. We have a couple variations of the same question, but it's a really good one, I think, for the last one. Is there anything a single individual can do to help conserve gars, or how can someone help with the conservation of gars who are unable to donate?
Sure, that's a great question. I think being able to share out some of the information that we've talked about, whether it's your conservation cast where we've talked about this, or other interviews, or if they were to look at my Twitter profile, they can look at Gar Lab and some of the things that we've done. I think sort of exposing people to that gars are out there and that they're sort of important parts of ecosystems, that is a great way to sort of share that information, to sort of combat this ongoing decades-long sort of situation, looking at gars as trash fish and being dangerous or bad for the environment. It's definitely not the case. So I think sharing information, that's a great way to do it, and that can be extremely impactful.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys can do command guest if you want to be taken to Soloman's Twitter. Slez tipped $20. We're at $774 flat. Okay. Would you like to get to the fun stuff? I told them I haven't said anything to my chat, but okay. I think they'll be very excited. Danny tipped $15.93. Thank you so much. Okay, so what are we doing now?
All right, so I might just need like a 10 or 15 seconds to prep this,
sure.
But so in order to maybe demonstrate kind of like how gars feed, I thought it might be interesting to, show you them eating. Now, I'm going to be feeding them frozen shrimp. I'm going to drop some into the tank so you kind of see how they eat. They have sort of this quick strike. They'll usually swim with the food for a while before swallowing it whole. Now, I tested it a little bit right before we did this to move the camera closer to that, but I thought it might be interesting to just show you kind of what their behavior is like. So I'm going to drop that into the tank here in just a little bit. So I don't know if it works to put me on pause, Maya, or we can just do this live. I just need to reset the camera.
Okay, yeah, you can reset the camera. I'll go full cam for a second and just let me know when you're ready.
Sounds good.
All right, chat. Again, command guest if you want to be taken to Soloman's Twitter. He does a great job. If you like gar puns, you gotta follow him. Anish, thank you for the $15 or $804.
You still hear me?
Yes, I can still hear you.
Okay, great.
Sorry, I muted myself here.
We never really know exactly how they're going to respond. So what I do know is that they will eat. So.
Okay, great. How often do you feed them?
Usually maybe once a week, give or take. They don't really require a whole lot food-wise, especially during maybe colder times of the year. All right, I'm just aiming that a little bit. Can you see my screen right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've made you full screen on my
screen.
So they can
I think that'll be a decent angle there. So I'm going to get ready and drop this. So yeah, I guess you can turn it on and I'll...
Yep, you're all set.
Okay. So I've got some frozen shrimp, locally sourced from Louisiana here. You can see a bunch of the fish. This big guy right here is a Cuban gar. That's the rarest of the fish. Yeah, I'm going to drop it in and you'll get to see kind of how they behave here.
Okay. Oh my gosh, look at that.
They're pretty aggressive. Now they'll pick up the food off the bottom and kind of swim around with it. Is
Is that the long nose one? Because it has.
Yeah. The little guy that's like really close is the long-nosed gar.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was that easy.
Yeah, it's one of those things in scientific names where it actually works out pretty well, where the name's as obvious as you might expect.
Right. Oh, we just
so he
saw
kind
that.
of uses his jaws like forceps in picking up the food off the bottom.
How cool. Look at this one.
They get a little bit anxious with the first few bites, and then they kind of calm down after everybody gets a piece there.
This reminds me, there was a question that someone asked about how long it takes for them to reach their full size. Is this the kind of animal that'll grow like to its environment, or do you expect all of these to grow quite a bit?
It depends. It depends on what population they come from, and of course, some of that can be controlled by the environment. Like an animal in captivity, in many cases, it depends. Fish are different from snakes, or different from lions, or different from cetaceans. But you got to think that it's not necessarily the extreme size. Like not every alligator gar is going to reach up to 9 feet long.
Right.
There's an average size, and as they get larger, we tend to move them to different tank sizes. Most gars within their first year can reach almost a foot long in the wild. We've seen in captivity they'll grow at a little bit slower rate, and they tend to slow down as they get older. So that giant alligator gar skull that I showed you all, that was 2 feet long, that the skull was, and the fish itself was only 48 years old, but it was almost 8 feet long. An 8 foot long alligator gar can also be 90 years old too. So they slow down as they get big.
That's crazy. These are happy fish. How cool. Someone said, dang, they just swallowed that thing whole. Yeah, it's really cool to watch them eat. I think because of the way that their mouths are, you kind of expect like a shredding situation, but
yeah, they kind of do a side swipe and they swallow it whole, which is why people sometimes are concerned about gars or like alligator gars. Are they going to attack people or anything like that? They're not going to attack anything they can't really eat.
Yeah, there were a couple questions about if you've got bit in the field.
They're completely harmless to people. Really, the only way you're really going to get bitten is if you're messing around with one on the boat, or if you're trying to grab and handle one. But they're not going to come after you or anything like that. If you're swimming in the water, an 8-foot alligator gar is still going to leave you alone.
Right. Just Aaron tipped $20 and Cal tipped $20. Aaron said, I caught a garfish accidentally off the coast of Ireland, and a local man told me to throw it back because of how important they are to the local ecosystem. I had no idea just how important they were, though. Great podcast. Cool.
Nice.
Appreciate
Thank
that. So that's it. We're at $952.96 in donations.
Awesome.
Oh, Just Bob tipped $10, so $962. Great.
Awesome.
Somebody who I think just joined the stream asked if that's a pike, and a lot of people asked if they're related.
So that's similar to my answer to the alligator and the dinosaur question. So they are more closely related to pike than they would be to alligators or to dinosaurs, but they have a similar body plan. A pike has a long snout, kind of a duckbill snout, and they've got the dorsal and anal fins set further back on the body, which is what you see with ambush predators. So it's a similar body plan, but gars tend to be, they're an older lineage. They diverged much earlier than pike did. So they're still a fair amount older by millions of years.
Got it. Millions of years, wow. That is so cool.
But another common name for gars is gar pike. So they look similar enough that people do call them that.
Okay, so that's a good question. Thank you. Oh. So do you primarily or only feed them shrimp, or do you feed them other things in this tank?
Sometimes they'll feed them frozen fish. It just depends. Pandemic situations have made it a little bit tougher to go and get other types of food. But luckily we're in Louisiana. There's no shortage of shrimp or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, that's great.
When they're growing up, we feed them live food, so it might be minnows and that sort of thing, because it takes time to train them onto eating non-live food.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And you can let me know when you want me to switch back.
Okay. Porsche tipped $5, said, I love gar, my favorite fish. Good. You're at the right place then. Guys, if you're just joining the podcast, we're raising money for, you can do Command.org if you want to be taken to the website, for the National Wildlife Federation Ranger Rick magazine. And we're talking to Dr. Soloman David, and we're looking at his garfish, his gars. How cool. Okay. Yeah, if you want to change back, we'll close up here. But that was awesome. Thank you so much for setting that up. It makes a big difference when they actually get to see what we're talking about, you know?
That's what I figured, you know, and it's not a fish that you might always see,
right,
you know, every day. I see them every day, but not everyone.
Yeah. Okay, very cool. So, oh, and Devil Tip $5. So we're at $972.96 today. Thank you so much for coming on. We've had this in the works for a long time. we've been going back and forth trying to get him on the podcast. So this was amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah. I will do this. We'll redo the poll, and I'll send you the results of, you know, if people change their minds or how much people learned. We're also going to do a short quiz based on the conversation we had today. So we'll see how much they learned throughout the podcast, and I will send you some of those statistics when the stream's over.
Awesome.
Okay, well, thank you again. It was so nice to meet you. And I will...
Great to meet you too, and thank you.
Yep, I will contact you on Twitter after this.
Sounds good. All right, see ya.
Okay, bye. Garfish! Anish tipped $28. That got us to our $1,000 donation goal. Thank you so much. Right after I hung up. Shoot. Okay. Chat. Brilliant questions. I've said it before, I'm sure, but the questions that you guys ask absolutely carry the podcast. JCK, thank you for the $3. It carries the podcast. It makes the conversation much easier. It makes my job much easier, but it's also so important because it's just like a great way for you guys to interact and to get your questions answered. So I know I can't answer all of them, but I try to go through them and do as many as I can fit. Those photos that he shared were also great. I love when guests do that. We're going to go right into the quiz here. So the way that the quiz works, if you're new here, 5 questions based on our conversation today. They're not necessarily hard questions. We're going to do the poll after the quiz. If you were here throughout the podcast, you're going to do just fine. The way that you win the quiz is by getting the most... Oh my gosh. Get Shroud headphones. That's crazy. I feel like I'm in a whole different world once I took one of these off. So the way that you win the quiz, they're backwards? Really? Oh my gosh, they are. The way that you win the quiz, Belgium, thank you for the 2 months, is you have to get as many questions right as you can the fastest. So you have to be a fast clicker to get to win this quiz. If you win the quiz, if you're not already subbed to my channel, I will gift you a sub to my channel. If you are already subbed, I will gift you a sub to a channel of your choice anywhere across Twitch, or you can ask me to donate an additional $5 to Ranger Rick magazine today, or the National Wildlife Federation. I have to set up the quiz, so it's going to take me a couple minutes just to enter everything into this extension. If you don't know how to set it up, anybody can participate on the quiz, even if you're on mobile. And this will show you how. I will be back in a minute so that everybody can participate. Here we go. Okay, who's ready for a quiz? Earth Eclipse with $55 said, Dr. Soloman changed my look on GARs. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for the donation. JCK tipped $3. Yeah, Anish tipped $28, so I think we're caught up here. $1,059. I'm sorry that my site broke. It will not, it won't be like that for long. Okay. Quiz kit. Your quizzes. Here we go. Okay, let's hope that we don't have issues with the quiz this week. I know we've had some issues before. Cindy linked some help for managing access. Make sure you manage access. I'm going to read the questions before they're sent to you, so you have a little bit of a chance here. It's sending the rules to you now, should be. The first question is, how many species of gar are there today? Are there 2? Are there 7? Are there 20? Or are there 14 species? You got 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. The correct answer, it doesn't do anything to type the question in chat or type the answer in chat. That's not how you participate in the quiz, unfortunately. So I'm sorry if you did that. You have to enable access on the quiz itself. Quiz not loaded. Sometimes we have issues with it. I'm sorry. The correct answer is 7 species. 230 people got that correct. But who got it correct the fastest? Who got the most points on that quiz? Chat. Who did it? Cindy. Nice. Cindy got almost a perfect score, and then contestant number a bunch. Again, if you haven't enabled access, then that's why your number is showing up like that. But sometimes the quiz is not working, so it may be on their end here, and I'm sorry about that. The next question is, which gar is the largest of all of the species? We talked about it quite a bit throughout the podcast. Is it the Florida gar? Is it the long-nosed gar? Is it the alligator gar? Or the spotted gar? The quiz has been broken for a month. I know, I'm sorry, that's out of my control. It's an extension. It's not my program. 3, 2, 1. Sleeping Smurf picked the wrong one. Oh no. All right. The correct answer is alligator gar. That's the skull that we saw during the podcast, if you guys were here for that. That's like the coolest skull I've ever seen, I think. 242 people got that right. Well done. Well done, well done, well done. Show scores. Chateau. But did he pull ahead of Cindy? Yes. Cindy threw. Lynx is in the lead, then Rojo Ranger, then Chateau is in third. The next question, 3 out of 5, is what important role do gars play in their ecosystem? None smile. They are decomposers. They are predators. Or photosynthesis. Seven, 6. Squid was too slow. 3, 2, 1, 0. Spence misclicked. Oh no. The correct answer is that they are predators, so that they help control prey populations. And Soloman also mentioned that they use them as an indicator species to see how well the environment is doing. 227 people got that correct. Well done. What up, Slick? Toon got nearly a perfect score, followed by Lynx and then Pyro. Lynx is in the lead, still followed by Chateau, and then looks like Shambit. And then 2 more questions. Number 4, how many prominent rows of teeth do gar have, top and bottom? This is from that skull that we saw. Do they have 1, 2, 3, or 10 rows? This is probably the hardest question on the quiz. Space thinks it's 7. That's probably not right. Danny's panicking. Everybody's panicking. Okay, all right. 3 seconds. I'm holding it, Chuck. The correct answer is 3. Did I announce our new podcast team member? I think I did on my normal stream, but I should on this stream as well. 133 people got 3. I did. Okay, great. Yeah, Space Voyage is now on the podcast team. He's been helping with the podcast for a while, so it's about time. But yes, everybody, people clap. Welcome, Space Voyage. 133 people got that correct. Who got it right the fastest? 1 Cram, Fat King, and Remez. Dibs is somehow in the lead, and then Side Ramen is climbing up, and then Remez. Okay, the last question. This is your only chance to pull ahead if you're not already Dibs. Dibs is in the lead. How often do gar usually spawn? No, that's not the question. That's not the question. Sorry. How many years are gars believed to live? That's the question. 5 years. 10 years, over 100 years, or 30 years. The correct answer is over 100. Or that's how long they believe they can live. 205 people got that right. Well done. Show final results. Drum roll, please. Sparu Diana came out of nowhere. All right. And then Dibs, and then Side Ramen. Okay. Someone with the name came first. That's sick. Okay. How cool. Hey, what's up? All right, let me gift you a sub. Hold on. No, oh my gosh, your name is gone. I'm going to gift you a sub to my channel. Here we go. So you get access, you get all the emotes. How fun. Thank you, chat. I appreciate it. I just went up and copied from what they wrote. Gift a sub. Gift to a specific viewer. Big time. Okay, that's the quiz. Hey, Sag. Congratulations on winning the quiz. Well done. Good job paying attention. And okay, so now we are going to do the poll one more time. I don't know if it's already running. I need to figure out how to see it better on my end. But also, actually, Space, you're watching. I don't need to mess it. Could you send me the results from the first poll so that I can compare the two? Hey, Zippy, thank you for the 5 gifted. I appreciate that. Is this a class? No. No, you don't have to participate in anything, but we are learning. Did you guys learn some stuff? I learned some stuff. Thank you, Chuck, for writing the quiz questions. Helps me out a lot. Yes, Smile. Yes. All right, here we go. Here is the second poll. And it is, it's looking better. It is looking a lot better. Let's go. All right, amazing. So when we did the poll at the beginning of the podcast, the question was, how much do you care about the conservation of gars? 58% said 3 or neutral. 19% said 1, don't care. 9% said 4. 7% gave it a 5, and 7% gave it a 2. So 58%, that's 269 people, said that they were neutral. Cal managed to misclick on the poll. That's unfortunate. Unfortunate. All right, try not to misclick on the poll. We're trying to make a measurable a metric, a measurable metric for this podcast. So don't mess it up, Cal. Actually streaming from a closet. Let's talk about that while the poll's running. What do you guys think? Is this bigger than you expected? Because this is a massive closet. I think it's kind of cozy. I like small spaces. Like, I feel like this is all that I need. You know, like I don't need anything bigger than this. If I had a room like Matt's, I would feel so uncomfortable. I'd just be like, I don't know what to do. It's too much. It is cozy, and I'm gonna make it more cozy. Oh, also fun thing while the poll's running. Look at this. Ow. This. Okay, can you just see it on the floor? Do I have to show you? This is a perch for Orion. So the perch is gonna go here. You get me? So Orion, I'm getting a weathering yard for outside. So he'll be outside if the weather permits, if it's nice enough for him to get out, to get sun and be outside. But if the weather's not nice or at night, he'll be in here on the perch. So he'll be on stream. I have a cute little sign thing that I'm gonna paint, and I'm gonna do Commando Ryan. So if people are new to the stream, that they don't come in and they're like, "What is that a falcon?" on the wall, you know. But yeah, how's the animal room going? A couple updates again while we're waiting on this poll. Housewives podcast tomorrow. I think 6 p.m. Housewives podcast tomorrow at 6 p.m. CT. Big time. That's part of the reason that I moved my setup here, so I could be kind of cozy and do that. The dog run, or the dog yard, is being finished today. I meant CST. 6 p.m. CT. They said they're finishing it today, so we will see. Hopefully within the next couple days, the dogs will be here and I will be moved in. The poll has ended. This is exciting, guys. Okay. How much do you care about the conservation of gar? At the beginning of the podcast, 58% of people were neutral, and then 19% said that they don't care. At the end of the podcast, 56% gave it a 4. 20% were neutral. 14% said it was extremely important to them. 8% said that they don't care. And 2% gave it a 2. Let's go. We love GARs. That's wonderful. Thank you, guys. I do appreciate you participating in that. That helps me out a lot, and I like having something measurable for this podcast. I know it does a lot, but it's important to be able to really see it. It means a lot to me. So I will be live tomorrow. I'll go live before the podcast. I'm free flying in the morning with my sponsor. So I'll be doing that, and if all goes well, then I should be able to go live at if we're going live at 6 p.m. CT, I should be able to go live at 3 or 4. Headset on backwards. I thought I just fixed it. Dang it. Why do I naturally do that? Okay. I don't have a bounty tomorrow. Why so early? I figured I'd go live before the Housewives podcast, so I can react and talk about the nonprofit. The business plan is done. I have some stuff to show you. We got a logo, not necessarily a finalized logo, but I'm kind of okay with it being a final logo. We have some facility concept drawings. We have a lot going on. Done with the business plan. It is all written out, so I have a couple people reading over it today and editing it and telling me what they want to fix, and I'm hoping to be able to send it out to potential members of the advisory board tonight, so that I can get them involved and get them a good idea of what's going on. I called an attorney yesterday. She texted me during the podcast, so I'm talking to her, and I wasn't sure if I was going to talk to you guys about this because I don't want to get your hopes up, but I'm just, I'm including you in as much as the process as possible. I'm going to look at a property. I'm going to look at a property on Sunday that I really, really like. And I don't know how fast we're going to move on it, but I've been talking to a realtor and I talked to a lender about getting a loan and whatever. And I said, I want to start talking to you about this, but I'm going to be super patient. Like it's a 3-year plan, but if the right property comes up, I'm willing to move on it, because the sooner I have a property, the sooner I can start developing. So I'm going to look at a place on Sunday, and I will keep you guys updated on how that goes. But yeah, 3-day plan, 3-month plan. This is not a 3-year plan. I mean, it is, but it's going to move faster than 3 years, which I'm really pleased with, because I'm just so excited about it. So tomorrow I'll talk to you guys more about the nonprofit. I have an ambassador list worked up as well of species that I think that I want, and I'll walk you guys through the business plan. I'll maybe show you some pictures of the property that we're going to go look at, just because it's really cool. And yeah, we'll talk about all that tomorrow. Twitch is an untapped reservoir for doing good. Yes. Oh, look. Hi. What's up? I wasn't sure if you'd still be watching. Everybody peepo hey to Soloman, our David in chat. Great. So I will talk to you guys more about the nonprofit tomorrow. Again, there's lots of new stuff. I've been moving so fast. Hey, you got a sub. Thank you. I've been moving really fast, and I have a lot to tell you, and I'm really excited, but I'll save that for tomorrow, because this is the podcast. Wonderful episode, as always. I just am blown away every week by guests that we have that are so passionate about what they study. It is contagious. So I love this podcast. This was a great one as well. I will see you guys tomorrow. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything else. We're at $1,059.82 today for Ranger Rick Magazine, National Wildlife Federation. So hopefully that'll help them to inspire some more kids to be interested in wildlife and to be explorers. Very cool organization, a little bit different from the ones that we normally fundraise for, but I love that. So thank you if you donated. Thank you if you asked questions today. The questions are wonderful, and I'm so glad that you guys get to participate in this as much as I do. But yeah, that's it for the podcast, folks. I will see you tomorrow. I'll go ahead and raid, I'll raid Matt, because when do I ever get to raid Matt, you know? Why not? Cool. All right. Matt's live. If you want to go watch some Rust, let me pull up that. Actually, maybe I should raid some. Oh, you know who else is live? Blex. Let's go. All right, we're gonna raid Blex. Let me get that outro video here. All right, I'm gonna play the outro. Thank you for watching. Thanks for being here on the podcast. Go say hi to Blex and be nice to him. All right, I will see you guys tomorrow, mid to late afternoon, probably. Peace.
You guys are amazing.
Twitch is an untapped reservoir for doing good. This is
Alright.
those of you who donate, thank you so much. It means the world to me, and it means the world to those guests. It's still really important that you're here and that you're watching, and that's amazing.